War is crazy. It's fast-paced, the environment is constantly changing, and the consequences of a bad decision is absolutely incredible. Because of this environment, military strategists have become some of the best decision makers on this planet. So I've been researching those people, and in this video you are going to learn 6 lessons from the art of war. I think I've talked about how a lot of people misquote Darwin. It wasn't survival of the fittest, it was actually survival of the most adaptable. But what is adaptability? What is the marker for how adaptable something is? Well, it's the amount of options that you have. In life, we should pursue things that give us as many options as possible. If you save money, you can use that money in lots of different options. If you build an audience, you can use that audience in a lot of different ways. If you pursue freedom, you can use that freedom and you have a lot of different options. With a lot of options, we've got a lot of adaptability to a changing environment. And the more options we have, the more adaptable we are. And the more adaptable we are, the more likely we are to survive and thrive. We've also got to be careful about how we view the past. Oftentimes, the past pulls us out of the present and puts us into shackles. We become arrogant from our previous wins, and we lose vitality from our previous losses. So when we're looking at the past, yes, we've got to learn everything we can out of the mistakes that we make. We've got to look back and make sure we never make those mistakes again. We've got to reflect on that. But we can't let our losses and our mistakes ruin our likelihood of success in the future. When Napoleon was asked, "What principles of war do you follow?" he replied, "None." To him, the genius of war was constantly looking at the options in front of you and picking, not playing by a rule book because that simply leads to predictable behavior, but constantly looking at the options before him and staying in the present moment instead of living life through the past. If you want to become a public speaker, imagine your first time you get up on stage, you stutter and you mess up and you don't pronounce your words properly. From there, if you decide to dwell on the past, you're never going to learn and improve in the future. Instead, you've got to take the lessons you can from that mistake and move forwards disregarding the future. We've got to embrace the past like an old friend and commit to better action in the future. And be careful not to get too rigid by letting your past define your future. We often waste time procrastinating. When there is no enemy on the horizon, we relax. And when there is an enemy on the horizon, we act. But sometimes too much relaxing can be a bad thing. Oftentimes it's so easy just to live life not really doing the things you know you should be doing, just getting by doing the bare minimum. But that is not the recipe to a good life. You must act, you must step up. And the only way that we can do that is to pursue life with a sense of urgency, to recognize the time we have on this planet is truly limited, and if we waste time, we simply cannot get it back. It's just gone, it's into the abyss. We must pursue life with urgency. We've got to burn the boats, we've got to put our back against the wall, and we've got to fight. We've got to fight to get the things we want and to live the life that we want to have. Sun Tzu said, "If they have no choice, they will fight." And unless you want to regret your life, you have no choice but to fight. So get that urgency into your life. We've all heard the phrase that a good offense starts with a good defense. But perhaps another strategy altogether is to not fight at all. Even if you win a war, you still have to use resources, it still costs something. So perhaps the best defense is getting the aggressor to not attack you at all. And one of the best ways to do this is with a bold, unpredictable move. You see, a rational person attacking a rational person, it's stable. But if a rational person attacks an irrational person, the rational person isn't going to know how the irrational person's going to act, and may not even want to act in case of a weird, unpredictable move that they haven't even expected. Richard Nixon created the madman theory, where he wanted his opponents to view him as crazy and irrational, and this would stop them from attacking him, because they're so worried to attack him in case they can't predict his response. As humans, we are scared of the unknown. In the film Jaws, they don't show us the shark, because that's more scary than if they do show us the shark. So be very careful as you go about your life of people that are trying to use this on you. People who are trying to make you emotional, to fight you with emotions instead of fighting you with logic. When you see the enemy fleet approaching the harbour, it's easy to get worried by all of the flickering lights of all of the different boats. But if you separate the parts from the whole and view each of the little candles as separate, they become small and almost insignificant. If you can learn to defeat just one of these things, you can learn to defeat all of these things. So break down large problems into smaller problems and they seem far less worrying and far less insignificant, and you know where to start. Growing this YouTube channel to 450,000 plus subscribers doesn't happen in one motion. Most of the things you're trying to achieve don't happen in one motion. So break them down and defeat in detail. And the art of ending isn't winning, it's winning in the correct way. It's about winning with flair, in a way that doesn't make your enemies despise you in a way that they will continue to fight you on into the centuries. It's not just about winning the battle, it's about winning the battle that sets you up in a way to win the next battle and eventually to win the war. In our lives, we frequently start things with no end in mind. We do things simply because society tells us to do them. But as Napoleon said, to conquer is nothing. One must profit from one's success. Our time is limited. That's just part of being a time theorist and living our life as best we can. We know that, so we've got to be so careful with where our time goes. Really asking, why are we spending our time in this way? I started university and halfway through I recognized this wasn't the path I wanted to take. The reason why I was doing this wasn't strong enough for me to commit hours and hours and hours of my time consistently. So I decided not to do that. We've always got to start with the end in mind. And also, the way you end things is so important because of the peak end rule. When you go to a restaurant, you'll remember your experience based on the peak, the best part of the experience, and the end, how it ended. It's the same with all experiences in life. So the way you end something matters so much. If you end all crazy and hurried, even if you're losing, if you end in some kind of an anxiety, that's how you will be remembered. Instead, whenever we're doing something, an interaction with someone else, we're ending a project, we're finishing something that we've completed, we've got to try and end it like the sun ends each day, slowly going down past the horizon and leaving a warm afterglow. That is how we want to end everything. And if you've enjoyed this video, there's a video on screen right now that I would recommend you go ahead and click. It's going to be beneficial for your life, and if you've enjoyed this video, click the like button and subscribe as well. I'll see you in that video.